Call meeting to order. Appreciate everyone coming out today. And then for those who are online, if you could introduce yourself in the chat for the sake of attendance. Also, the sign-in sheet is on the end of the table there. If you all are able to sign in, maybe pass that around if we missed the sign-in sheet. The agenda packet got sent out with consent agenda a little bit earlier than last month. We appreciate you guys and your patience as we have some staff changes at the HLA and working with me to get the agenda done. So can you pass it over for consent agenda?
Yeah, did anyone have time to look at last September and October's, as well as I believe the charter that also was included in this?
I'll make a motion to approve. Is that what we're looking for right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to sign them or both?
I think it's fine if
You can do, yeah, you can do them both. I think there was a, so you make a motion?
For September and October minute approval.
Yeah.
There's a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah seconds. Discussion, any comment? Gary, I think you had asked a question about your attendance.
I've answered my own question.
Okay, good. I was like, I think I saw what the issue was, so, okay, so make sure you guys.
The copy, I'm good.
Okay, September 1st, October, okay, good. All right, so, minutes passed, thanks everyone. We are still waiting on, this is our proposed charter. The, timing of meetings with the HLA board is this Friday. So hopefully that will be approved and we'll have that for next month's meeting. They were, the COC board was sent an invite for today's meeting. If they all had any comments or feedback that they wanted to offer a little bit more insight into the committee. There's no one in person, I don't think, from, or we have our lived experience who's already part of this committee, but I don't know if there's any additional staff people online. Excuse me. With that, we will move into subcommittee updates and then have kind of just open discussion. There are a lot of kind of timelines and different things going on. So. Let me actually, I'll do timeline first, I apologize. So we are in November, obviously. Board was invited for today's meeting. Board is reviewing kind of our updates, like I said, our charter and also our recommended survey at the end of this week with any recommendations due back. Survey should be finalized this week as well, pending, of course, HUD changes, which will allow time for the translation. Marketing, recruitment, we're going to get into the subcommittee updates on these, but our hope was that these documents were already finalized, but we'll talk about that in the subcommittee, that they are near completion, and hopefully get an update on that soon. Recruitment is also kind of pending some of that marketing material. But I did want to talk about marketing with, with recruitment. If there were any agencies or partners that we've been missing or that we need to re-engage with as part of the discussion for point in time. Let people back, please. Anybody in discussion on that? Are there providers? So we're working on just getting those marketing materials finalized, which we have a lot of discussion on that. Thank you.
Dominic, can you ask your question again?
Yeah, on the recruitment, is that there's agencies that we need to be starting to reach out to that maybe haven't been engaged in the past couple of years, or partnerships that we need to be mindful of for this year.
So directions had changed from to Melinda, so that might be someone that you might need to re-engage so that they understand, can help.
So I did reach out to Melinda and she's participating on the deployment subcommittee. And I've asked for involvement of her staff for a year. So I'm also hopeful that the promotion of point in time at the COC board meeting will get some involvement.
And I can't see if she's on the.
I'm sorry, what did you say? She's on?
No, I said I couldn't tell, but I can't.
So one of the individuals was eager to get involved with PIT. I don't know necessarily the planning part, this is their first year. I said they should come just to get an understanding, but I did a small, like, what is PIT with an individual from the organization, because we worked with them in the past for translations. And I emphasized our need for folks that can deploy with the Spanish survey that would be able to explain it. And they're sending it to the administrative team and the rest of their agency to gauge interest.
For translation, actually, we'll come back to that, sorry. All right, December.
I'll take that box here, you don't mind. Yeah. Trying to pull them up for my peeps. It's all in there. Yeah.
I'm like, I can't hear enough. I guess I
So good. Yeah.
December, we got beta testing for survey still, deployment zones, finalization, Spanish translation, survey schedule, and recruitment push. So I should, recruitment should be starting this week. I'm very hopeful for that. But it's been and finalization.
Yeah.
For law enforcement, we are coming up with a different registration process because it was very challenging last year. Obviously for there, we are coming up with like a parallel registration, and then we're also involving the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office technology early on in the process to ensure that is smoother this year for all law enforcement. And then also any additional, like we're kind of on the fence on whether or not to have outreach register in that way too, if they're not going to be deployed into regular assignment. So if, and that's why I'm looking at you guys right now. So for outreach, and maybe you as well, Arrow, is your outreach team, do you want them plugged into a traditional zone, or are you having them kind of fill in those gaps throughout the day?
I'm having heard about wording law enforcement. There's gonna be some that won't talk to PD for a couple.
We do traditional, have the regular sign up. I guess because we haven't heard different from our law enforcement, but I think the majority of places that law enforcement is going, the people are familiar with them, so they will have the conversation with them. If the thought is different, then Dom just let me know, or Sergeant can let me know. And then we could pair April with law enforcement if that's.
Yeah, I think every municipal or every outreach does it a little bit differently. So that sounds great.
So right now, depending on the size of the volunteers, I'm making assumptions right now that we will make sure that, you know, people are safe in some of the high crime areas, you know, and just be near, but not interfere with the volunteers in that area, but make sure that they're safe. PATH will also go into the encampments and into the woods where the subjects are known to be living, that the volunteers can't get to. So more of a little bit of a security role, and then more of a role of going into the places where the volunteers will not be able to go.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
So the question is, in those areas, in the encampments and woods, I have not heard back that people will not speak to you all or won't do the assessment.
No, they're
because
usually
lying.
very familiar
Because
with
they know
us.
you all, right.
We do the survey with them, so
Right.
that's not an issue. We can
Right.
still do the surveys independently.
Yeah, okay.
I think Kathy does a little both.
Yeah,
She
Kathy
does on
kinda
her
tag
own, and
teams.
she tag teams with them.
Or she's able to pivot too, if that's,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, this one's a long team, I'm doing that thing right now. Okay. And then late December, obviously, we're coming into the holidays. The way the holidays are staggered, there's a lot of extra time off too, for some agencies. So getting the small print job on those, pushing social media, which the HLA is working on securing access and identifying who the social media person can be. Training, will also, registration is gonna start in late December, and also finalizing those materials.
When is the push for, and I might have just overlooked it. I see the training schedule finalized. So when would we send out the information to our teams for registration?
Hopefully registration is ready within the week.
Okay.
So depending on however you all do that as an agency, like we're gonna be pushing it out through our HR actually this year, so it'd be part of their newsletter for the timing of that, but then also our internal department will be getting it as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so ideally the sooner the better, because we are kind of like, we're already in November now.
Right.
But hopefully all our volunteers will kind of be registered. It'd be kind of that. Hopefully they'll be registered by mid-December.
So I guess what I'm asking is the marketing materials are slated to be finalized by the end of the week so that we know what we're sending out.
Hopefully, yes, but we'll get a marketing update. Yeah. Yes, yep,
Perfect. Thank you.
yes.
I have a question back, it was maybe back on screen, no, we talked about doing the, Giving Tuesday thing as a fundraiser for the point in time, is that's November, right, is it the November, is it the day?
I think it's early December.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
December.
it's right after Thanksgiving, right?
Tuesday
That's
after
Tuesday,
Thanksgiving.
Monday, Tuesday, okay.
So, I was gonna ask that later, so, but we can ask it now, because it is obviously relevant. HLA, as far as the extra incentives and recruitment was there any decision reached on how that was gonna be done?
It was dependent on how much we need to raise, but we were talking internally about, the budget of that.
So at this time, based off what Victoria had provided, she was doing about, I think it was 2,200 incentives to allow for the 1,200 or so surveys. I don't know her math on that, to be honest, but that is how much she had emailed us out for what she had done for batching and different things like that. I do know from experience being at HEP, there's that turnover between shifts, and so things might be out, but not back in. So right now, we have about 1,200 incentives from what Tony had calculated. So we're about 1,000 short based off of that math. But again, I don't know how many get sent out, how many we're short of. Like HEP would pull from their own reserves to fill the gap. Like 4 or 5 years ago, more recently, I think it's been better as far as what's out and what's coming back in.
This is Sherry. Thanks for sharing that, Dominique. I was aware that we have $6,000. That's the 1,200 in gift cards that were left over from last year. And my last recollection was that we were looking at raising another $1,500 was the gap that we were trying to fill. And so now we're trying to double what we were talking about last month. I just want to make sure.
That was the feedback that I gave, that I sent over to you via email that Victoria had shared during last year. So I don't know what your like actual SOPs are, but that's how many were given for batching.
Thank you.
Clark in the chat mentioned each individual Chick-fil-A can donate cards if someone reaches out.
And Colette, I know you have someone that has volunteered some. So I guess that's what I'm confused about is who's making the decision on how many incentives would be needed. So maybe that's a question of deployment or the experience of the deployment leads.
Is Dana home?
I don't have access. I think that's the conversation. Dana, are you on?
I do not believe she is. No.
We're gonna meet Friday on something else, so, but I will.
Because what you guys had reported in the last, the subcommittee that I was sitting in, is that the numbers were good. Like, you guys had a good amount of supplies, that was what was reported at the last deployment subcommittee. So I was like, well, what are those numbers? And so I started digging through emails and found an email from Victoria before we were batching. And that's where the 2,200 came from.
Yeah, but I feel like, at least I can only speak to St. Pete. I called Dama out, even Kevin came out with additional, bless you, cards at the time. I ended up coming back because we didn't have enough just for the one space that we were in at St. Vincent de Paul. And so I'm not sure, what I am not sure of is how we determine what the thought is of how many surveys we'll do in that area. I guess we could kind of maybe look at how many actual surveys happened in that area and make that determination that way. It might be too late to do things that way, but maybe that would give us a better idea of. Last year was kind of an anomaly because we didn't do as many surveys as we would normally do. So maybe between last year and the year before, if it's not too much work to kind of figure out how many surveys were done in that area, then we can determine, okay, we need 50 for St. Vincent de Paul because we do everybody inside the courtyard and everybody who might be anywhere in that area and over at Unity Park. Maybe that might be a thought on how we can determine how many more.
I think St. Pete has deployment, because that's where I've been the most recently. It would just be kind of like a 20 or 25 pack.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what it was.
And that's what it was. So if we minimally did every, like, one chunk of time, the 9 to 12, say, how many zones we have times 25, like, I feel like there's a pretty easy calculation to it. And I feel like that's what.
But that wasn't
Victoria did
enough, is what I'm
something of
saying.
For yours, right?
Yeah, for
But then
St.
others
Paul.
had not, like, came back with all 25. And
Yeah.
that's the inequity that we find ourselves with how many do we give each team and how many extras do we have on reserve.
Yeah.
I think the turnover between the morning shift and the afternoon shift has been resolved because there's a bigger break now. But that was really the biggest issue, was the morning crew kind of came back before the afternoon crew went back down.
So based on the numbers that I provided, I think it was last week, St. Pete did do 298 surveys, which was almost double Clearwater, Dunedin, Largo only did 87, Leland, Tarpon Springs 13, and then our unassigned counties or first responder counties of 82. So you do see a vast majority of which is. So it may just be that we need to just properly coordinate on where those cards go based on the amount of surveys that we normally do in that area. Now, of course, that's completed surveys, Cat 1 and Cat 2. That's not necessarily encounters, because we did give away more cards than we actually did surveys of, because we did encounter people, did surveys. Those could be duplicates, they could have been breakoffs or what have you, and they still got a card.
Yeah. So sorry, that 200, you said 200-ish for St. Pete.
298, almost 300.
That was the deduplicated, or is that the?
That is the
Total
deduplicated
surveys.
category 1
Okay,
and category 2 clients.
Yeah, because I'm wondering how with the total surveys, because I mean, I think it was 650 versus 1100, right? It was almost half.
It was
the
a lot,
surveys
yeah,
were
but
taken out.
out of those 1100, not everyone got a card.
Right.
You know, if they broke off early, they didn't get a card. If the person said I didn't want to and refused, and the person still started the survey, they wouldn't get a card. So it'd be kind of difficult to tell if who got a card or not unless we put like a check mark in the survey or something, you know, gave a card or something like that. That might help if that's something that we could do at the end of the survey to just get volunteers to mark whether or not they provided a card.
Well, maybe we, in the smaller areas, just do batches of 10 for some of the small ones, and then the bigger zones where we know, I think most of the deployment places know their hotspots. You could either do some packs of 2 or 25 or whatever to get those for the area. But I guess the other thing is, like, this year, we're fortunate that we're going in with a surplus from last year. But if we just use up those this year, then we're gonna be behind for next year too. So I think it would still be good to at least try and get some more, so we have a little buffer.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? Like, obviously, if there's 1,200 left over, 2,200 was a lot last year, right? Like, obviously, that's a lot. But again, it's that where are they at what time? Because I'll use law enforcement as an example. They receive a whole batch, and I don't know, some teams I've heard get 5 each, some teams don't even use them when they do the incentives for the surveys. How did you guys split those up for your team?
Usually we just, start out with giving, last year, I think it was Winn-Dixie cards.
Yeah, but did each officer have like 5 with them?
Yeah, each
and
officer
then-
had about 6.
Okay,
And then, if they completed 6 surveys, they would come get
Come
more. I
back
think we
again.
went to whatever
Yeah.
that location was, and we had to pick up a couple extra.
and I know Ortiz gave me a large chunk back, so maybe it's just we're oversaturating it. But also, again, when you're talking about 20 officers, let's just do 20 times 5, right? Easy math, that's 100 cards, but they might have only done 30 surveys, right? So yeah, there's a surplus of 70, but then that one officer has none and this other officer has all of them, that's whatever the formula is, I'm open, I don't.
Internally, usually one officer is responsible for getting the cards, and then he'll distribute them in his agency the way he wants. And then if there's any surplus, it gets turned into him and he returns them. Or if they need extras, we contact, I think last year it was Dana, and she was at the whatever facility that is right off 31st, and we go pick up extras if we need.
That is one thing, like, I feel like definitely for all the law enforcement, they should, be aware their deployment sites can be that resource for extra stuff if they run out of stuff, so they're not going all the way back to.
I think in the past, each agency has worked it out amongst themselves, and it worked out fine.
So when counting, I went ahead and batched cards by 10 counts. So we've got nice little 10 count stacks.
Easy, and then, I think each place probably knows where their hot spots are, each deployment site, give extra cards to that area, or it's even potentially based on volunteers. If you have an area, you're sending more volunteers because there's a bigger count.
So I guess I kind of hear, we're kind of talking, so I just wanted to try and sum it up. So it sounds like we are asking for deployment to have a recommendation. And then, as we said before, HLA finding kind of the solution to get us there. And maybe that's a counter recommendation too. So does that sound good to everyone, or anything else we need to?
Dominique, may I ask a question?
Of course.
Because last year, I'm a little bit newer to this. So last year, I remember that was the first year. Tell me if I'm wrong, but prior to last year was bus passes, right? And then last year was the first year that the Winn-Dixie cards were purchased. I know that was the first year for Winn-Dixie, but prior to that, were there other incentives that were passed out besides bus passes?
No, it's only bus passes.
Okay, because so then I can, for what we ended up spending from HLA was $10,000 last year towards those Winn-Dixie cards total. So just to give people a baseline of where we were last year and what that would have purchased. If it helps.
Yeah, we will, so I think we'll ask, I'll call Dama and ask them to give a recommendation and then send it over to TV for HLA to make a determination on. So either way, there's a gap. We do need to get more gift cards, or more incentives, it's just a matter of how many.
And I would just point out that I know a lot of what I was getting back, is that they wouldn't use the Winn-Dixie cards because they're not around the Winn-Dixie. That was a lot of the conversation I had when I was doing it downtown St. Pete. And I've heard that from other people as well, so it may be good to have other incentives.
Gypsies are far and few in between downtown.
I think part of that, yes, we heard that too, but I think part of the challenge, and some more for TV, was that she could not order gift cards in bulk. Like, I think Walmart was like 10 at a time. Like, so, yeah, so that she did try to do that, but I think she also did it very close to in early mid-January. So just something to consider as far as the process for that.
I think maybe in that case, we may want to make sure that the bus passes, the majority of the bus passes go to St. Paul. so that they have those available while they're working out.
I would say the
Free.
opposite.
They
get free
Yeah,
bus
St. Pete
passes.
gets free bus passes. That's part of the reason we've been away from the bus pass.
Oh, I
So
got you.
any St. Pete resident that is unhoused or extremely low income gets free bus transportation from the city of St. Pete. They support that, and then anyone with a blue card is $6 monthly. So again, that's, most of them already have a bus pass.
Gotcha.
So
Kind of stepped away.
I think, tell me if
Veterans
I'm
Rights
wrong, bus passes work well for you all.
Yes,
They work well for PD as incentives, because we do give bus
Yeah.
passes to our CAP team. But I think they work well because of where people are and where they meet them at. So the incentives work well for them, but something that I just heard you say is you can only get 10 from Walmart. Well, that 10 from Walmart might be good in a certain area. If we have deployment in that area down by Walmart, that might be good to use in that area. So only getting 10 from one place or another might be okay. Everybody.
It's just a
doesn't
matter
have
of
to be-
time, starting it
Yeah.
earlier. That's what I was saying.
I think, the bus passes work good for me too, like, the people, they were kind of weird about the Winn-Dixie, but, I mean, I have no issue with getting bus passes.
if you want to make the incentive for all law enforcement officers for bus passes and the volunteers can get whatever, the bus passes work great for law enforcement.
I wonder if they're just not expressing to you all that. We don't want the bus pass, like they
No,
don't
they
do
ask
No, they
for it.
ask for it.
Yeah,
I get asked, I get-
They can just take whatever I need.
We spend $500 on bus
They
passes
ask
for
it.
them.
Yeah,
I get asked.
They ask
daily-
for it.
daily
Yeah.
bus passes, and then I
Do
teach
they
them
ask
how to
for
get
bus
them.
passes?
Yeah,
They still
I-
ask for bus passes.
Yeah. Do they ask for bus passes?
Even in Bell Park, there's a high demand for the
Yeah.
bus pass.
And I even make them do the application.
Oh. Okay,
So,
it's a little different.
yeah, so if someone's stuck in that situation, we have that, but we've talked about like some alternative for like a day that he's off or something.
Okay.
So that, thank you for sharing that. I was just gonna jot that down. that you guys-
PAC does transport as well, but I think it's a good way for them to build rapport.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Officer Philboni, I need to do this. Can you give me a bus pass? Okay, fine. And then they'll come back to him. So I think that works well.
Just want to let you know that, that Damon did show up, so Damon is
Okay.
here.
All right, we'll connect later, Dana, because I'm ready to move on. Everybody else is, so let's, all right. All right. So TV and I kind of worked on this schedule, based off of years prior. And it is still, I'd say it's a loose target, but it is getting kind of more honed in right now. So we are working on having supplies finalized by the 5th. So that includes our, whatever our incentive is. We're looking at volunteer training that first full week, I guess that's the second full week of January. There is MLK is also, mid-January, so training would be completed before MLK, which gives the HLA a week to do all the assignments. We're going to continue to push the campaign and marketing, and this is where that really gets more to the, hey, this is point in time, and these people will be out and about, so be aware. Volunteer deployment assignments will be given a week prior. This is just, again, modeled from last year. Supply batching is tentatively scheduled, which I don't know if we've reached out to you, David, yet for a potential site, but on, I think that's Monday, the 26th.
Yeah, it's Monday.
Thank you. And we would do the batching on that day for all the deployment leads and first responder coordination for that as well for the point in time event on Thursday. I know we're waiting on marketing materials to be finalized, but I haven't seen the HLA newsletter in a while. Is that still being done?
HMIS is providing their newsletters.
Okay.
But not an HLA one? But not a general HLA one?
I have not. seen
We
that.
haven't had a general, I'm not sure which newsletter you're talking about. Actually, we've been talking about wanting an HLA newsletter.
And I don't know how, like, once the market materials are finalized, how the HLA intends to push all of that information out. I
Constant
just don't-
contact and social media, definitely. We can, and that's how we do our newsletters as well for like HMIS and providers is through constant contact. If there are any other ideas though, of course, we'll entertain that.
Okay, and then the February wrap-up meeting will be February 10th, so. All right, so we're gonna jump into the subcommittees. We've talked about some of these updates. Oh, sorry, this is really the rest of the data is gonna come in and then the report will hopefully be out in July. So the subcommittees, we talked about some updates already with the timelines, but we're gonna go into the subcommittee updates, hopefully hear from all of our subcommittee leads, in person or online. So I'm first, so I'll go ahead and do that. Are you able to share the attachment I sent you of the survey? The email I just sent you, I'm gonna put this PowerPoint too. So I wanted to do a kind of a walkthrough for y'all's review. We were able to eliminate some questions. So this subcommittee included lived experience, COC board. We had outreach, we had municipalities. I'm sure I'm missing someone. We had HLA representation. So pretty Hispanic Outreach Center participated. Pretty good representation. And then we really were trying to make it shorter. We were able to cut, I think, 2-3 questions, but we didn't make it that much shorter, but at least it's not longer. So I just want to do kind of a high level update of what has changed. If you guys have any feedback, and then it's going, we're just waiting COC board feedback as well. So here's the changes that we've done. So we try to do a little bit different intro, that we were completing a housing survey, but essentially the same sort of intro as before. The location, we did drop the street, camp, bus stop kind of check boxes. GPS is picking those up on most app formats. Where did you sleep last night stayed the same. We started having a big discussion once we got into date of birth. So date of birth, HUD only requires an age, but HMIS uses it for deduplication. So we are still preferring the month year requirement. However, if they do prefer not to answer, we are asking them their age, because if they don't give an age at all, it actually cannot be used. So to try and get HLA to, or excuse me, HMIS to be able to deduplicate, but then also get counted by HUD, we added that option. Social, the last 4, so social is another good example. We've always kind of required the last 4, that's for deduplication, but HUD doesn't actually require it. So it could have been counted for HUD, whereas if you didn't give a birthday, it wouldn't be counted for HUD. So there's been a change there. We do know that the gender question is going to be updated to a binary sex, but we are waiting for the exact verbiage for that. So we are leaving it as is for now. What race? Oh, we did drop the orientation question of sexual orientation, heterosexual, gay, lesbian, bisexual questioning. We did drop that question based off feedback for both concerns of sharing that information, concerns of collecting and analyzing that information, for the safety and for funding considerations was kind of the feedback on that. Race, the only change to race was a HUD change of dropping the non-binary Latin E or Latinx option. We dropped all you currently pregnant. Nothing has really been done with that data, so we felt it wasn't worth asking anymore. Military stayed the same, education stayed the same, but it did get us into a long, big discussion. And this is I think the only question we added, I believe, is what is your current work status? And so we really wanted to, Chair Beckman actually brought up this idea of like what people are, if they're working, if they're not working, what their income amount is. And we kind of settled on this question based off the recommendation of Dr. Freeman. So what is your current work status? And so those options were, are what we're going to be providing. But we're kind of thinking this is like a foundation where there may be more questions added in the future. But the intent is to see how many are working or have income of some sort, as part of that bigger discussion of, you know, are these people from here? How long were they here? Are they employed? Are they educated? Part of that discussion, kind of those common misnomers we get asked. How long were you, those stay the same. How long were you in Pinellas? We did keep the data collection for if they would like additional information. And then what is the primary reason that caused you to lose your homelessness this time? We did add inflation or increased rent. That's the only question added there, or the option added there. They were been evicted. And then, sorry, I lost my, okay. Sorry, what? Jail. We did drop the jail question, yes. I rearranged them on I forgot the original got rearranged. So have you been in jail or prison within the past 12 months? We did drop that, because again, really nothing was done with the data. And some people, we didn't, some people didn't like the question, so. You got a question?
No, it's going about in my head, like. Never mind.
Okay.
So for the inflation part, I understand the increased rent, so like if they're saying there's got priced out, like in general, that would be.
Yeah, we were trying to find a way to summarize that.
Yeah.
Someone was saying, the livable wage, like there's a lot of different words thrown out, and we kind of settled on the inflation increased rent. So they were maintaining here at one point, but they couldn't anymore. So, I'm sorry.
Can I go back for a second? You said something about the work. I can't really read it from here. What were you asking about the work, the employment situation? What was the question you asked?
Yeah, the question being asked is, you scroll up for me.
Would it be better to possibly change that to what is your current income status? That way you could find out if people are, do you get zero income? Are you on government subsidies like SSI, SSDI, SNAP? Do you have full-time employment, part-time employment, day labor? You know, instead of what is your employment status, instead of just, you know, make it income?
Yeah, so that was actually my word, was income, but there was a lot of discussion on the right word and phrase for this. So the group intentionally selected work because they wanted to see the actual earned income. They specifically did not want the non-cash benefit or the Social Security disability and those sort of things. That was the question of this, that was the recommendation of this time.
Right, the main reason that we went with work instead of income is that people would probably be less inclined to answer the income part for fear of possibly losing that income based on being homeless and possibly having some issues with SSDI or SSI or something along those lines. We just wanted to make sure that we made the question as comfortable for people to answer as possible. Income kind of gets a little bit squirrely when people are homeless and they're trying to answer questions about income. At least from what we see from HMIS standpoint, the income questions are usually not answered as often.
Wow, I get the opposite. People on the street, they are very upfront and want to tell you, and then they're trying to qualify for this other one and that other, so, okay.
Yeah, whenever they're looking for help, yes, if they're looking for help for SSDI or SSI, yeah, they're gonna say, yeah, I need help getting that.
They want something that they're applying for.
Right,
Understood, thank you.
Otherwise, they think you're nosy.
right.
Right, right, please, I can do. That's my business, but.
Yeah, because I was leaning into the income and trying to get the social security. I also wanted like EBT, TANF, like all of that, like to get a total. And that might be the next phase, but I think the intention of this is just to see what, it really goes back to that myth busting of like, how many of the individuals that are unsheltered are actually employed.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
The main reason calls you, have you ever been evicted? So number 15 and then number 16. So 16, 17, 18, we rearranged these ones again. So in the past, it was 17, 18, and then 16. And this has to do with the chronic homeless definition. So if you have to be literally homeless for 12 months or longer, or 4 more times in the past 3 years, that equals 12 months or more, right? And so that math equation is a little cumbersome and confusing. So this asks the same. So the first question, number 16, is trying to get, are you currently homeless for 12 months or more? And then if not, then it will go into, it will actually, if it doesn't equal 365 or higher, it will then go into questions 17 and 18 to try and get to the 4 more times in the past 12 months it equals, or 4 more times in the past 3 years it equals 12 months or more. So the questions stay the same, they just got rearranged, and then there will be logic in the digital survey where you're not asking the second and third question. There.
Back to the other income one real quick, just to know when the analysis is done, it would be good to be able to break out the people that responded that are under 62, X% was working, and the ones over 62, you can still say how many are working, but I think that's important because we have so many seniors becoming homeless too. And so we don't want to lump everybody into that, you know?
Yeah. I don't know if Dr. Gerhard is on, but the final question was recommendation from other surveys he does, so I'll give that back to him. So you're good, because we did that. We had people who were retired and had to go back to work. I mean, we had so many options for that.
Yeah, we don't need that many, but we can take the data based on age and, you know, they can break it out back and see.
So that's how the logic changed on 16, 17, and 18. So that will reduce 2 questions on the digital if they have been unhoused for 12 months or longer. Number 19 stayed the same. That is a HUD question. For the required disabilities. And then, actually, the rest of the questions, yep, the rest of the survey all stayed the same. So health services or medical clinic, and then are they survivor and are they currently fleeing? So that is the recommendation. That's the changes. Like I said, it did get rid of like 2-3 questions, and we did add the 1 question. So any feedback or recommendations?
Dominique, can you read the question? I can't remember the full verbiage, that's why I'm asking for it again, but inflation and something, like being costed out, essentially.
Yeah, that's number 14. So what is the main reason that caused you to lose your permanent housing this time? And it's check 1 of like those 10 options there. I don't know if you can zoom in, but there's 1, 2.
You don't read them out to them, you wait for them.
Right.
Yeah, you kind of hear their story and then select the one. This question is always super challenging.
Sure.
We used to have like a video about the little drama, because typically it's one of many things.
Right. Well, that's true too. And it's check only 1, even though most of the time it's not only 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did try, we had some discussion on could we check like a primary and then check all,
Sure.
but I don't think the logic is there to do it digitally, so. Okay, we'll select that option. And last year we did add, I think it was natural disaster, and we had a hurricane last year, and we did see an increase in that answer.
Right.
But like the scenario I always use is like you have a job injury, so then you self-medicate, and then your spouse gets mad at you, and then you get evicted. Like, so which one is it?
It's
right?
a whole, yeah, it's a whole avalanche. Sure.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right, we will consider that good to go. We'll see if COC has any questions that they want to add. A lot of those questions on that survey are actually have come out of them over the past few years. The other recommendation, other updates. Next slide, please, sorry. The final draft of survey, good to go. The app developer already has that and is reworking some of the logic because we did actually rearrange a couple questions as well. Final draft hopefully is going to be done this week with HUD recommendations as the only additional changes. We do have 2 or 3 people offered to do the Spanish language translation, so we will be sending that over to them hopefully in the coming week. And then I have identified a good amount of beta testers, and hopefully the app will be completed by mid December. So, any questions on survey? Cool beans. I think we're done. Let's see what's next. Deployment. Dame, are you online? So.
Yes, I am.
All right. Are you able to give us an update on your?
Well, believe it or not, I'm not in the office, so I don't have my notes, unfortunately, from the last meeting. But I believe, Arrow, can you help me? Or maybe you might remember, Dominique, there was something that we were talking about and recommended. Oh, I know what it was now. To bring it to the group as a whole in terms of what information we should be trying to provide this year. The first thing that comes to my mind based on what's happening right now with food stamps would be relevant information about all the current places that people can access food unless that's changed by then.
Yeah, so like we have the little gray business card size info card that goes in the kits most times. And then like last year, I think we had the anti-camping information flyer as well. Might have been one other like domestic violence card as well. But if there's any other things like that, we weren't sure if we need to wait till like December and see what's going on with things like, shutdown still in process, is it open, are there other, we get a hurricane between now and then, that kind of thing, to see if there's something more relevant or not.
Don't you speak that out.
But off the hand, if anyone knows of anything they feel like should be in there, and it's not that you have to hand it out to everyone, it could be like, if someone's looking for resources that you have, a couple in your kit that you can hand out, so if there's anything else.
And so we offer, the county does help for the homeless cards, which are those little trifold business card size. I have a new print of that we can offer up. It was typically the Family Justice Center, and then also the bed cards. That was the other one. So I don't know if those are helpful or not, or if maybe the question here is, do we make like one consolidated, like quarter-page document, that is specific to prime time?
I think that's easier, finding all the cards and making sure that everybody has them. Just because your team lead isn't always next to everyone, so I know I keep everything in the folder, and if they ask for it, they have it, but to have them going through their survey and digging in their pocket trying to figure out what they need is a lot. But I think the quarter sheet size makes sense, depending on what's going on at the time.
I recommend we revisit this in December and see what's happening in the world.
It's probably
encouraging
true.
things.
Yeah.
So Colette mentioned in the chat, Feeding Tampa Bay's website, you can enter the zip code and it will bring up any food pantries in 5 to 10 miles. I do this for our food distribution sites.
They also have a bunch of new emergency lists that they just put out this last week
Also, first
for
contact.
pop-ups in like 5 counties.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's cool when they did that.
Yeah.
But it's only good as if the person has the ability to take that information at that moment. True. And if they don't, then I like having the little cards, like saying, hey, okay, I hear you say you had some DB concerns. Here's this card. Let me give you this so that you'll know where this is at. That's good. But I think having it all on one sheet does help instead of me looking for, wait a minute, do I need this card or this card? So having it on one sheet helps, by revisiting it depending upon what's going on makes sense. we're not gonna be, we don't need that negativity in our life. Never mind, we're gonna be great in December, so.
Well, that may be a non-issue by then too.
It
so that's
is.
the thing.
It's gonna be a
It's got a
non-issue.
climate manifest.
Right. We're not doing this negative stuff. It's gonna be great.
Today, it's gonna be a new record. And we'll shut down. All right. Any other deployment updates?
I think the other.
I think that was the biggest one to bring back to the committee as a whole. Yeah, I think so, honestly.
I think the other thing we talked about was just, looking at like the maps we print out or whatever, so people know the areas. We talked about, the EMS grids are a layer that's already in the countywide I always get around GIS, it's because they GPS, not to say, but then we could use that kind of as like blocking off and printing areas on the map. Like here's your area where this group can go to and that group and so forth. And versus having it be like, the zip codes are good, I think, politically for reporting, like people, you know, can, and the public can relate to the zip codes, which they can pull from the heat maps. But the grids will help kind of people understand what areas to go and it relates to.
Yeah, so for, I'll use Pinellas Park as an example. There's a deployment zone that's like 5-6 different parks, right? But they might be 3 EMS districts, so we would actually be able to give them like a box or rectangle that said, here's your boundaries, basically, rather than the 5 parks, which the 5 parks would also be listed, but because obviously the city boundaries and zip code boundaries can get a little hairy.
I did send some more. They might have sent you more places for deployment. Did you see my email?
Oh, okay, great. I have not had a chance to update that again, but it will be before our next meeting.
Are there any cities or areas that we see any gaps in?
And I tried to
Well, I
see
mean,
it.
what I have right now, it overlays the zip codes that were in the point in time count.
Okay. I always think of like
So,
Seminole. We never do a lot of deployment in Seminole.
We tried it the other year and then they didn't find it.
There's like, there's not a lot
So that's the hard part, is like, we could send someone, like,
Yeah.
it's okay to have some of those areas maybe as extras in case, like if someone's finishes early, I think, I could send.
In
those
some of
down.
they just travel through a lot. That
That's
was
true.
my area before I came back to community policing.
Yeah.
So they might be there for a few days and then they're gone.
We'll train
Before they developed across from, the VA, there was guys always around, but usually don't stay very long, so.
I know Gulfport isn't a deployed zone, but DFL's outreach, and then Gulfport PD is involved, so that's like another area, but I think that's covered, so. I was gonna work with Sheriff on, Palm Harbor. There's a few places that I'm finding people, that I don't think are they interacted with for one time?
Yeah, Borgonia and I were up there about 2 months ago, looking at some of the areas, especially high up on East Lake 611.
Yeah.
So there are some up there.
I can't remember if we found some.
Tarpon, yeah, there's a new, corporal there that I'm doing better contact with. And then Dream Center Metro, that's up there.
And tell me the times, which time did we take away? Was it the 9 to 12:30?
Take away.
I think we just, it's 6 to 9, 9:30 to 12:30, and then 1, so there's that half-hour gap for the transition and materials. I don't think we took any out this year. Are you minded? I mean, if there's certain zones that you don't want, like, when I look at my zones, I'm like, I try and hit each zone twice, not 3 times throughout the day. So I'll base it based on where I think the people will be at different times, like first thing in the morning versus once they're out and about. So you can put that on your.
I did that. That's kind of what I
highlighted.
highlighted.
You don't think need to go on every shift and just know what are the key ones.
So I know last year, I feel like at debriefing and the year before that at debriefing, we kind of talked about, do we need to have all this many time zones? So I'm out at the 6 to 9, same people are coming out from 9:30 to 12 in the same area. I did the 9:30 to 12 as well. We aren't talking to anybody that I didn't just see 6 to 9. And so I did highlight that in some of the areas on our spreadsheet, Dama, just so you know, like maybe we can get rid of deployment in this specific area at this time, because we're already there early in the morning. I feel like people are there early in the morning because that's where they wake up. But the rest of the day, they're not there. It is their goal to not be there. So I don't know if we're not utilizing people in areas where maybe they could be utilized because we
I
have them
think
go.
we should talk about that offline. I went through that with Kathy for Clearwater, and she kind of did the same thing based on what Clearwater Police Department was doing.
Okay.
And I know, Tony, in the past, I don't think you did it this year though, because it wasn't asked, was how many surveys were completed in each zone at each time?
Right.
Because last year we spent a lot of time on should we get rid of a zone?
Yeah.
So, or we get rid of a time block.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Tampa or Hillsborough, you guys don't do the entire day, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the zones, because of the shortened period of time that we had last year to get everything set up, since the hurricanes kind of delayed us, we didn't get a chance to actually go into the app and draw out all those specific deployment zones. So we didn't have that layer available during the survey where we could see, okay, these surveys are happening here, these surveys are happening, let's start moving people to other areas. We are going to do it this year, though. We've already started to discuss that in that deployment meeting. Redistributing those zones to make those zones a little bit easier for us to map out, based on the not having to have two perpendicular and two parallel roads in order to actually create a decent zone.
So we're talking about the amount of people like going from 9 to 12 versus how much we're getting from 1 to 4. That's what they were bringing up.
Yeah.
Right,
So,
but like 1 to 4
analysis.
in that specific deployment zone as opposed to 9 to 12 in that system.
Exactly. Because we still use the I call them nicknames, the S4,
We
the
do, yeah, we
S5
do
or
still
whatever.
use it.
So we could still look at that data if you guys wanted it, but I think that's the thing, trends change so quickly.
Right, but also they didn't necessarily have to switch that, move to a different area, because the GPS was taking us where they were, so I mean,
We're hoping to drop that this year with.
Right. Right, for the registrations, we talked a little bit about, like last year, I ended up with a ton in that 9:30 to 12:30, but we would have more impact if we had more at that 6 to 9. So I'm not sure if we can make more slots available. I don't know how your other areas are. I don't know if that's something we can adjust or not, how many available slots.
Yeah. I mean, you guys, that would be part of the deployment, so.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys felt the same, Peter.
I'm the same. And so Damon, did you hear Arrow?
We talked about.
I did not.
I missed a little bit of the meeting before, but I was at the meeting. So I guess we just need to talk about how we can determine how many slots we have for each time, and if we're going to get rid of some of the time slots. That part that we talked about, we can take offline. I think Tony will be able to get us the data that shows how many surveys were done within a specific time block in a specific zone. Is that right? Is that what you said?
I can't do time blocks in specific zones because we don't have data on the surveys that were completed in those zones. We have data on who was assigned to those zones and the surveys that person completed, but that doesn't necessarily mean they completed them in that zone, in the assignment, because we did move people around quite a bit. And even though they may have been assigned, say, zone S4, they may have completed it in zone M12 or something along those lines. So the assigned zone did not match up with the longitude and latitude data from the actual completed survey. The only thing we were able to track based on those was the which county, north, south, or mid county.
Okay. I heard that completely different. I don't know what I heard first time. But I thought what I thought I heard is, anyway, it don't even matter what I thought I heard, because what you said is different than what I thought. So okay,
So the
you can
surveys
pull the
aren't
zone.
Geo and time tagged?
Well, that's what I was thinking. If
They
it
are or not?
I don't. Yeah, it doesn't matter necessarily the person that did it and where they were assigned. It matters, can you pull all the zones that were done from 6 to 9 AM in zone S1?
Right.
No, I
Okay.
can do all of the surveys that were done in a specific area at that time as far as North County, Mid County, or South County.
Okay,
But we did not have a layer
got it.
for those zones.
Makes
The only
sense.
thing we could do is
Well, it's
get,
not a layer, it was a question at the beginning. It's one of the questions.
right, that's the survey that we didn't actually have a question on which survey zone you're in. We just had the assigned zone data. We didn't have an answer to what zone are you surveying in. We just had the area on where they were assigned.
Is
Okay.
that something that we can layer in slash?
That's what we're
should
layering
be
in this
doing
year,
for
for
this
sure.
year, so that we don't have to do this again? Okay.
Correct. This was only last year because we
Got
didn't
it.
have the ability to do it in time
Okay.
based on the rush that we had to do in order to get that data done. We
Okay.
had decided to do north, south, and mid-county this past year. That was new from
Oh.
years past.
Okay.
So the problem is drawing out those municipalities
Mhm.
in order to create south, mid, and north counties. It wasn't something that I was able to do. ArcGIS, Pinellas County was able to provide us with those. Basically because of the way that you have to draw out those areas within a layer. Municipalities can be interesting, right? You can have a hole in the middle of a municipality that is not part of that municipality. So if you're trying to draw out a municipality, you have to be able to draw in those holes.
Right.
ArcGIS, with the level of access that HLA had, wasn't able to do that. We couldn't create holes within them, so I couldn't create true maps. So they had to do it for us at that point.
I think that.
This year, it's a little bit different with the new emergency sections, because that's something we already have. I can easily import that in and then label those, so that going forward, we can now be able to put that information, overlay that on top of our heat maps, and we know exactly which surveys were done where at what time.
I think even looking at the data, if we knew, we probably could have hit more people at that 6 to 9, we just didn't have enough volunteers. The past data is not gonna help us on that. I think it's more the experiential data, knowing that first thing in the morning is a prime time to hit the surveying. So but it's not the time that most people want to volunteer either. So I don't know if we could just kind of make a big push, or maybe at the top of the thing, say, greater need for 6 to 9 or something at least. Like, we don't want to turn people away if they can't, but like something.
That's probably a good idea. Our greatest need is the shift to be signed up for.
Yeah,
as
we were
push out for deployment.
We were thinking about restricting the number of registrations for like the 9
For
to
the
12 and the 1
yeah.
to 4s. Obviously, those that get trained and those that actually deploy, so it would still be an inflated number.
Yeah.
But, showing that we needed more in that early morning.
Is there a way, like, if you do clip the numbers for the mid-morning and afternoon shifts, to then like send something to, I don't know if like that's gonna be automated. This is way outside my wheelhouse of knowledge, so forgive me if this is a stupid question. But if they could get sort of like an automatic reply that's like, thank you so much for your interest. Would you rather come up from 6 to 9, because that's where our greatest need is, because we know you want to volunteer. Help us out. Is that a thing?
I will tell you that when
Or is that
automated
ridiculous?
thing, in the past, it was a voluntold thing. So, hey, we're doing it from an agency, we're
Fair.
gonna, and that Victoria facilitated all of those kind of moves and shifts.
Okay.
Based off of, her relationship with people.
So I'll tell you, for thinking of that from a city perspective, people work according to the time that they work. And
Right.
so 8 to 5 is when they work.
Right.
So 6 to 9 is not gonna happen, especially if we are looking at our hourly employees who are punching a clock to
Right.
come in.
Right.
It's
I know
not gonna
specifically
happen.
people, like from my personal experience in team, it's tiny humans and getting them off to school / daycare and then
Yeah.
getting to wherever their deployment zone is. That can be really challenging too, so. Yeah.
And then some people want to work an early shift, so they get, they're done at 2, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Be done for the day.
And that may be at least like a flexibility thing. We can ask some of our partner agencies at least, is to like,
They're willing to flex
allow
their
their
day.
managers to flex their time or something if they do start early for those that day.
Yeah. for our agency, it's flex. I talked to
Yeah.
our admin and to let us do it that way, so sometimes you just gotta, know the right person.
Doesn't hurt to ask, and we might have
For sure.
retirees or age groups that want help.
Any questions for deployment? All right, I'll go on to the next. Marketing. So. I'm gonna give it over to you.
So Sarah was.
So Zen might be
chair, but we hadn't heard, now she's on PTO until November 10th, so we went ahead and met. It was Suzanne, Sophie, and myself. We are going to update the materials to reflect Pitt's date this year. That was really kind of all that needs to be updated, other than training dates and registration once we have the link. So I met with Dapo last week to get the registration updated and out. We're hoping to make it less convoluted, because I think last year there was a lot on the sign up page on ArcGIS, if anyone remembers it, like make your account, then go here, then go here. It's just like, if you had an account, you just sign in. If you didn't have an account, you create one and then you sign in and then you're registered. So we'll be finalizing that hopefully by tomorrow, if not today, I think. And then I'll be able to test it, and then we'll have the links to update, and we'll update all the QR codes on everything. And then once we finalize that by the end of this week, we're looking at next week possibly working on any translated materials, maybe like very bare minimum translated to Spanish, if we can get those out. And then we'll be able to start pushing for registration.
Perfect. Yes, the volunteer registration in general, it should be a 2-part process this year, hopefully.
I did have a question for training, which I know you all have updates today too, but once you have your dates, we can make materials for advertising for that too.
And then, any questions for marketing? So marketing is essentially, it's gonna be similar, but just updated with new dates and times, so. Training subcommittee, is Blossom online by chance? Or
If not, I can give it. So we've been meeting every 2 weeks for our training. We now have everybody that say they want to be a trainer. So we're gonna be sending out emails for our next meeting that we'll be having in 2 weeks to be able to get dates for when they would like to start training. I think we're gonna be doing it January 9th through the 16th is our hope. And then we'll get all the information over to TV once we complete all of our trainings as well. And then TV and HMIS is going to help assist with the training videos that we're gonna also be making as well. Am I missing anything else we spoke about?
Got it. Are you, I feel like you guys thought you were in a good place with,
How many trainers we need. I think we, me and Blossom, we decided that we're all good with how many trainers we have. And it's just about now getting them on board and putting down the dates they're gonna be training.
actually.
Yeah, I think we have about eight right now. Unless that you had a few more, April. I think we're at 8.
8 with us included.
So I don't know if
Yes.
Colette is, she did send me an email that she is willing to train. That's Dream Center, so they typically do their own training as well. So I will forward that to April and Blossom, so you have that. And then Copeland has willingly agreed to be
Blink
our.
twice if you need help.
Right. I didn't wanna.
I know a lot of people are grateful for your sacrifice. And so am I.
We need.
We're gonna start begging. I'm like, come on, people. But Copeland is gonna be doing the law enforcement training. As of right now, we haven't talked about this, but essentially the plan was that we were gonna do one big training. Pinellas Park has a place that we can probably use, so we will secure that date. I was thinking the week of the point in time, that way it's super fresh and we can give the incentives out there, so we're not having to duplicate the incentive election. So it'd be that week of the 24th or whatever. that is.
26th, is that Monday?
26th. So that Monday, Tuesday was kind of what I was thinking. And
Would you
then,
like
oh,
to
sorry.
add it to the, I mean, it's most of about the regular, but I guess we could add it to the meeting for.
We'll add you to and then Colette said she would do it, so, we'll coordinate on that training in January. That will be closed, it'll be law enforcement only. And then also with law enforcement, since we're talking about that, I am waiting from Lieutenant Hayes to hear when the chief's meeting is, but the chief's meeting will be getting a letter with the marketing materials as well. And I have made contact with most of the, community policing, so to make sure that we have some of that support and that crossover from last year with the transitions of staff and promotions and things like that, retirements. I think we're in a good place with y'all's training, and again, the registration is changing. So the civilian, the everybody registration is a two-part process: confirm, sign in, and then register to volunteer. And then the law enforcement will just be confirm, sign in. So, hopefully that will go well. Any other training? I think we're good. Youth, I don't know, is Chuck or Tom online?
This is Thomas Toy. Chuck is not available, but he gave me the report and we've been working together. And so I'll give the Youth Outreach Subcommittee report if that's okay.
Please, thank you.
You're welcome. And you see some notes right here. We did meet on October 15th. One of our first goals was to identify and recruit additional strategic members, and we've been active in doing that. We have about 10 agencies represented as part of our Youth Outreach Subcommittee, including Family Resources, Street Outreach, Ready for Life, the City of Largo, the City of Clearwater, AMI Kids Pinellas, Pinellas County Schools HEAT Program, Suncoast, Family Support Services, and pending Metropolitan Ministries, and myself representing HEP. So we're really glad about the outpouring of strategic members for our subcommittee. Our main focus right now is to glean information from these subcommittee members on areas frequented by unhoused youth and the best way to reach them. And we had some great input on our first meeting October 15th, and we actually meet tomorrow on November the 5th at 11 a.m.
Great. So I was really excited to hear the diversity of providers. I think that will also increase potentially our recruitment for the overall point in time. One of the questions from Chuck was, and I think here you guys are deciding it tomorrow, was do we stay focused on plugging into deployment, plugging into marketing and how to, who to advertise to about it? Or there's a potential for them to become another kind of block party host site, specifically at Ready for Life. So they're talking through that with the new partners that they have involved in this, and will let us know.
And I believe, Chuck, after our meeting tomorrow on the 5th, Damien, Chuck will probably reach out to you at some point to coordinate and touch base with the deployment subcommittee. But we want to meet tomorrow, have a little bit more direction and input from our members, and then reach out to the deployment subcommittee.
Sounds good.
So many questions for you. All right, thank you. All right. Got through it. Any open discussion? Any additional comments or tasks going on? Nothing in the chat online?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay. Perfect. With that, does anyone want to, here, this is with the numbers we've kind of had going on, but again, we're waiting for marketing and recruitment and all of that. We'll really start pushing this. If there's no objections, anybody want to make a motion in the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
There we go. Thank you. Philipponi and Arrow, thank you.
Well, just.